Tonight in the sideline, the men's and women's basketball team kick off the season in style with some big wins. The volleyball team prepares to host the conference title at home, and the soccer team keeps warming up for our conference title run. All that and more as we head on down to the Pioneer sideline. The men's basketball team kicked off their season this past weekend when they took a trip to Columbus, Ohio. I'm going to kick the ball out to Trevor Sheets to see if the team could start off the season on a high note.
Thanks, Kyle. The Point Park men's basketball team started off their season last week at the OCU Tip-Off Classic at Ohio Christian University in Circleville, Ohio. The Pioneers won their first game Thursday night by a score of 143-70 over Great Lakes Christian. 7 players scored in double figures for Point Park, led by sophomore Jeremy Williams, who had 32 points while going 14 of 15 from the field. Returning starter Alan Heater had a double-double with 17 points and 12 rebounds. As a team, the Pioneers had a field goal percentage of 61.9% in the first half. Friday night saw another victory for the Pioneers, this time over Boyce College by a score of 116-75. Point Park took a commanding 69-29 lead into halftime and never looked back, led by a trio of 20-point scorers. Saeed Allen led the team with 24 points, and both Jeremy Williams and Yondell Dennis had 20 points apiece, with Williams going 4 for 6 from behind the three-point line. Saturday gave Point Park the first loss of the season, losing to host Ohio Christian 82-76. The Pioneers trailed for most of the game, but stayed close to Ohio Christian, getting within 3 points with only 19 seconds left in the game before the Trailblazers put it away with 3 free throws. Both Allen and Williams scored 20-plus points in this game as well. Allen with 21, all coming from behind the arc, where he went 7 for 12, and Williams off the bench with 23. Monday, the Pioneers had their home opener, hosting Penn State Beaver at the CCAC South Gym. The Pioneers won by a score of 111-87, with Barry Smith and Jeremy Williams leading the scoring for Point Park with 23 points apiece. Smith had a double-double with 14 rebounds to go along with his 23 points, while Williams went 8 of 12 from the field. This puts the record at 3-1 after the first week of play. Next up for the Pioneers will be Penn State Fayette on Wednesday at home, and then a full week off before they play again at Washington Adventist.
Now, Trevor, what can we expect in the road ahead for this Pioneers team?
Well, like I said, Wednesday they are playing at home against Penn State Fayette, and we should expect a lot more scoring. In the 3 victories, they all scored in triple digits, and as the coach told us in the beginning of the season, expect a lot of points to be scored by this Pioneers basketball team.
Now, how big is it for this team to have started 3-1 on the season?
It's huge, especially with how poor their season went last year. 3-1 is a great way to start off, and a great way to see the high-scoring offense they were talking about really start off well for them. Now, I'm a little worried about the second half of those games. In each of the games they won, while they dominated in the first half, the second half was very evenly matched, with most of the scores being within 2 or 3 points in the second half.
Now, what do you contribute those second half struggles to, Trevor?
I don't know if it's necessarily just training or if the players are just getting tired because there's not enough rotation of the starters with bench players or what, but it just seems like they're tired in the second half, which leads to less scoring and more turnovers with the ball.
Now, who have been some big players so far in the first 4 Pioneers games?
The biggest player by far has been Jeremy Williams. He has scored 20-plus points in all 4 of their games, including the loss at Ohio Christian, and he, of course, scored 32 in the opener against Great Lakes.
Now, do you think these players will be able to keep up that consistency, or do you expect them to go back down?
Honestly, if they keep up with the rotation of players they have, I think they can keep up with the pace, but if they end up having to drop off and going shallower and shallower into their bench, then I don't think they'll have the stamina to complete the season with the high amount of pace that's in their program.
Thanks, Trevor. The women's basketball team started off their season the way they wanted to, picking up a victory. So this weekend they headed to Michigan with the goal of picking up a couple more W's. So I will inbound the ball to Paul Daniels to see if the women's team can get those W's.
Thanks, Kyle. The women's basketball team is off to a fast start this season after they picked up 2 victories in Michigan this past weekend. Against Madonna on Friday, the team jumped out to a 39-17 lead at the half and held their opponent to just 20% shooting from the field. Kelly Johnson led the way on offense, scoring 27 total, and the Pioneers never relinquished their lead and went on to win 74-55. The game against Concordia was just a little bit of a tougher challenge. Point Park led at halftime 61-54, but then really turned up their game in the second half with all 5 starters scoring in double figures for the game. It was the sophomore center, Sam Weir, who stood out in this one, scoring 22, which led the Pioneers to a 122-93-point victory on Saturday. Sam Weir was also selected as the first KIAC Player of the Week this season after last week's dominating win over West Virginia Tech. They are now 3-0 overall on the season and will host a home game tomorrow at 5:30 against Penn State Fayette.
Now, Paul, what can we expect in the road ahead for this team?
Well, they got Penn State Fayette tomorrow night, and then they got the D&E Classic where they play Pitt Johnstown and Dave's Elkins on Friday and Saturday.
Now, how big is it for this team that they have started 3-0?
Well, it's a big momentum for them. They expected to get these 3 wins, I think, and they're a good team. So their expectations for the year were to go undefeated, win the KIAC, and have a better shot at nationals this year.
Now, what are your early thoughts on the scoring from this team? Because this team isn't a team that's known for scoring, but so far in this early season, they have put up big numbers.
Yes, they have indeed. Sam Weir has really been the MVP offensively for them, getting 2 double-doubles in their first 3 games of the season. She had 22 against Concordia this past weekend, and also Kelly Johnson, who had 27. But really, Sam Weir, who was mentioned as KIC Player of the Week, has really been dominating.
Now, the Pioneers team has been a team that's known for defense, and right now this Coach Grenick team isn't playing very good defense. What do you put that on?
Well, I think it's just the youth of this team right now. There's a lot of sophomores, freshmen who haven't really seen college basketball play up until these past 3 games, and they're really just trying to find their togetherness and gel as a team defensively. They did cause 16 turnovers in the second half against Concordia, so that was something to pride themselves about.
Now, who've been some big players so far for this Pioneers team that you expect to keep playing big roles?
Well, as I mentioned, Sam Weir, Kelly Johnson, and then we had Alexis Lyers, who's been putting up boosts off the bench lately for this Pioneers team.
Now, how big is it that Janine McFadder is starting to pick up her game some? She didn't play at all last season, but this season, in the last game, she had 17 points.
Right, and you mentioned that, and she's producing as well. So there's multiple players on this team that can produce, and that's a good thing. Just when some players having a bad day, the other can pick them up. So it's a solid team all around. They got a good team.
Thanks, Paul. This past weekend, the KIAC Cross Country Conference Championships were held at Shenley Park. The winner of the women's race was Katie Valkenberg from Asbury, and the men's winner was Dallas Guy from Rio Grande. Coming up after the break, the women's volleyball team is headed into the playoffs. Find out how we think they will do in the conference tournament, and find out what quarterback will possibly have his career ended.